stuff that I would like to kind of put into our thinking is that think of the tremendous stressors that an infant feels when their mom is struggling with stress, mental illness in the womb. You know, they now are saying things. I read it last night looking for some information about this, about how much that crosses over in a way. Now, what actually happened, I'm not trying to say that, you know, the baby died because she was not thought about, but I think that there's a strong connection between a woman's mental health and all of those things kind of reek of, there was something not right there. And it's just kind of, you know, and somebody told me, well, I think she was psychic. She knew her baby was gonna die, because I've told the story a bunch of times. But there's a lot of things we can learn from that little story that just put in our mind the importance of this whole time period, pregnancy, the support you get afterwards. So demonstrating a lack of knowledge regarding caregiving is an obvious concern, and mothers appear different when the baby's not in their presence. That's something that I want to point out and ask all of you guys, that when you're doing home visiting, when you label something as postpartum depression, I think it's important to weed out, are we seeing a mom who's very different in the absence of their baby? Because that speaks to the fact that this could be related to the relationship. Truly there is depression there, but is this in regards to the relationship, or is this a biochemical process that has to do with everything else? I've seen women that appear very depressed and despondent and unable, I can't bond with this baby, but when they're in different circumstances, they don't feel the depression in the same way, which speaks to the importance of understanding how the relationship is affecting both the baby and the mother. And when there's a lot of requests for the baby to go other places, that might, you know, sometimes not, but again, it may mean something. So here's some of the things that the infant brings to the relationship that can have some significant that can pose some significant challenges. Because I want to point out that the parent has the job of facilitating the attachment relationship, not the infant. And by the way, when the infant does take on that role of facilitating, they become, it becomes a dysfunctional, what we call a role reversal attachment in later on, when I'm your attachment object and I'm taking care of you rather than being experienced as being cared for. So prematurity can cause some problems with attachment. Oftentimes premature babies, you know, as you guys all know better than I do, often look like they're still in the womb for the first month. I had 2 premature babies, and you know, 25 years ago, having a baby that 6 weeks early, we were like shipping them off to, you know, Cincinnati Children's Hospital and things. Now I hear people saying, I want to get induced 6 weeks early, but anyway. So I think of how he still was so, you know, kind of not with me. He was sleeping more than other babies might have slept. He's also like that that's his temperament. He's about as non-responsive as you can get. He just goes with the flow. But prematurity can cause some issues like this. Ongoing health concerns can get in the way of attachment. Excessive and persistent crying. When we think about, you know, this might be horrible to say, but I'm going to say it because it's really not horrible. I prayed, like the rosary and stuff, that my kids wouldn't be colicky. Because I had a sense that if that's going to be the case, now I had the best husband in the world for that, but I was very worried about that. I don't know how I got stuck on that. I was like, that will be really hard for me to stay with them and deal with that, and that can be a big barrier. And I wonder if you guys know about a national hotline for babies that have excessive and persistent crying. Okay, I always do this. Okay, no, I don't know it. I can't tell you. The Fussy Baby Network. If you Google this, they have a 24-hour hotline where trained professionals will intervene with people. My new granddaughter, who's 2 months, went through a patch of being very I had them call, and she goes, yeah, I called at 2 a.m. and they talked to me. So feeding difficulties, regulatory challenges, which is again some of the crying, but also some of the other things, getting into a pattern of managing my physiological states, and health condition or developmental disability children that are slow to respond, you know, kind of like I described about my little Logie, just like, come on, mommy's here, you know, you got to work real hard. Well, if you're not persistent and don't try to work real hard, they're not going to come, you know, begging you for it. You got to be right there with them, trying to engage them. And sensory processing challenges, which can again get into feeding issues, all kinds of things. But when babies are experience sensory input in a way that's aversive, that can be perplexing for parents. So I'd like to talk about the referrals that we have to offer in our community. We have wonderful programs all around Muskegon. I've been here for 9 months and I've just been so excited about everything that our community has to offer. We do have a lot of services here, if you ask me. We have service providers that work in prevention, promotion, and intervention. At CMH, we have a big commitment to developing our intervention programs for young children and babies. Anne and Hannah, sitting over there, are working in a program, and we have some other staff that provide services to very distressed dyads, where we have a mom and a baby who are in some trouble in terms of their attachment relationship. These babies are in foster care, or we're trying to prevent from being in foster care. And we went to that population very specifically because we know that babies in foster care are at extreme risk, and that they are the population in the child welfare system that's growing the fastest and that has the worst stats. They're more likely to stay in child care longer, they're more likely to be abused and neglected while in foster care, and they're harder to get out once they're in, for lots of reasons. So we wanted to try to impact that population, and we're getting flooded with referrals. We can't possibly serve everybody we have. They had like 200 that they wanted to give us right away, and we're like, well, we want them all. So it's been a challenge for us to kind of build, and we interviewed somebody today. We're like at the speed of light trying to hire people because we see this as one of the things that you can do to help the community and help people in an ongoing way. If we can arrest that negative interaction at an early age, look at how much that affords that child a better future. So we have programs. Ann Judson is, raise your hand, Ann. Ann Judson is the person that is running our infant mental health programs for the foster care population, which do take referrals only through the DHS. But we have a person named Lisa Sayas, and I would direct you to this. Ann, did I give the right number for access? Yeah. Okay. If you contact our access department with a mother or a baby that you're concerned about and feel like describe some of the things that I'm talking about, we will do an assessment. And I hope in the future, and some of you guys have been at meetings with me, that we can develop a really nice system of care where we all can come together and build upon some of the wonderful stuff that's already happening here, because we may not maybe necessarily be the appropriate people to intervene while you guys may be. You might want to use us more for when there's psychological conditions in the mother and the baby. But you guys are doing all this wonderful work to prevent that. So sometimes people might call us, but they're really more to come to you guys. But I think you guys know when you might need a partner in treatment. So we'll be there to step up and do this as long as we can get like 100 people hired. But we are committed, and I know that all of you guys are like, CMH, you know, they're hiring people, and because what I understand is for years that we haven't done enough for our youth and families, and believe me, that's why I came up here because I saw this as an opportunity. I was been someplace for 25 years, and I was really lucky that we had great staff and developed a lot of great programs, and I'm like, wow, this is a place that needs some help, and so I was glad to come up here. So just want to kind of end by, I think it's ending, am I at the second last slide? By kind of saying that what might we do in our service provision. I kind of talked about it briefly before, but we're going to do a mixture of things, because when somebody's getting beat up, doesn't have a house, doesn't have food, they don't want to sit and process what happened to them in their childhood. You know, how ridiculous is that? So we're going to be there to facilitate getting their needs met, which, by the way, is how the baby forms an attachment to their mother. You meet my needs. You don't come out the chute which took me a long time to figure out why my mentor kept calling it the chute. I didn't realize that the chute was your vagina, but it took me a while, like, out the chute, and I thought, what's the chute? My friend goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, yeah. That's why my daughter calls me an idiot servant, but anyway. So we're going to be there to help facilitate getting that mom's needs met, because that develops their capacity to trust us and to provide some serious need. You know, Hannah's a genius over there. Raise your hand, Hannah. Hannah's a genius at engaging. She has such strong engagement skills. Parents just glob onto her, and I think she does an exceptional job, but I think what she keeps in the forefront of her mind is, what does this person need to focus on the baby? Because you can't focus on the baby when you're not in the place to even know if you're safe or if you have a place to live, you know, so that's great. And we're also going to be doing supportive counseling, where we're listening, attending, and reinforcing those positive things that we see. You know, we're not jumping right ahead to infant parent psychotherapy, which is some, you know, more intensive interactions. And by the way, I think that it's important that, you know, if we walk in and I'm all prepared to do some hardcore infant parent psychotherapy, and I walk in and mom gives me this look like, my husband's going to be home in an hour, we need to get the heck out of here. We need to have our session, and let's sit down and talk about things. That's not, you know, we know, at least we try to know, when we got to shift gears and weave in and out of these 5 important areas of infant mental health work. So that is what we do. I have my contact information. I could, like, you know, like, fun for me is to go and to have lunch with one of you guys and talk about infant mental health. I'm a big goober. I like to talk about the research and just be with people that like to talk about babies. So if anybody wants to talk to me, give me a call. I miss my best friend in Indiana, Angie, who we would just like talk on the phone and then meet up. She was in Indianapolis, and just talk about babies. So if anybody wants some help, give me a call, or, you know, anybody wants to share with me your desire to kind of join forces with us for a really nice systems of care to build, I want to say build upon what we already have. And I put some resources down. 0 to 3, My AIM, which is our Michigan Association of Infant Mental Health. And then I have an agreement that I've written a couple of books, and I'm not a good marketer of my books, and I told my publisher I'll put it in my PowerPoints. So I have written a couple of books. One is in press, and it's kind of like a 22-chapter book about everything you can imagine about infant mental health and early childhood practice. So now I'm like on cloud 9 that I don't have to write a book every weekend, so I'm kind of bored. But that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions? You guys are probably done for the day. 4 o'clock on a Friday, huh?